Quinn, are you ready to go?
Uh, yes, I believe so. We might still be. Is Ashley here? I think we might still be waiting on Ashley.
Half our students came down with COVID, so she is super swamped. Will not be able to make it. Last time I talked to her, so she's out.
Understandable. Understandable. Well, with that being said, we can get going. First, I'll let I'll let the USG lovely host give his intro.
Well, I just appreciate everyone being on, and thanks for joining us for really the true first learning session that we got set up, and appreciate those of you that were on last time, learning about this great committee and things that we got done. And as we go through these things, we look forward to learning more and getting more input from everybody. And Uncommon, we're just happy to be a part of it. That's all. We really happy to be a part of it. We love our equipment managers, and you guys have been so supportive of us. And I know it's a big appreciation week for you guys, and you guys are getting a lot of love out there, but there's not enough love out there for you guys. So just appreciate everything you guys are doing. If you guys have any donations, or the big thing we're asking for right now is students looking for scholarships or students looking to further their career in athletics. Let me know personally. I'd love to reach out and talk to anybody. And I will go ahead and get things going. Quinn, you got the road.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Obviously, we couldn't do this without you and USG for sponsoring this, moderating, doing all that. So huge thank you. And kind of echo what he said. Obviously, it's Equipment Manager Appreciation Week, so kudos to everyone out there working hard. I know it's a big week. I'm glad we can kick this off on the same week as we're going. So we're here today to talk about order planning and preparing for the unexpected. And we do have it's going to be like a panel. Josh is going to kind of lead us with questions, and we each will take turns answering that. And at the end, we'll open up for questions. Just, kind of general, as we always do, little tricks of the trade, how we do it at each different levels, and just go from there. And also from the vendor side. So with that being said, Steve, if you would like to take the floor.
Yeah, just introduce myself. My name's Steve Urbanek. Equipment manager with the San Francisco 49ers for 18 years, and now I've switched over and on the vendor side for the last 7, working with Visus and WSI Sports. I was always real big on budgets and things like that. Our team, we're down to the last dollar figure on things. So I had to be creative, had to learn how to deal with tight budgets and everything like that. So looking forward to working with everyone, talking through some things, giving us some ideas. And, like I said, happy Appreciation Week to you guys and gals out there. It's a great profession, and I don't even really call it profession, I call it a lifestyle, because we live it 24/7, and it's the greatest profession I think out there. So I really appreciate everyone out there, and happy Appreciation Week.
Thank you, Steve. Augie, if you want to.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Augie Hernandez. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Associate Athletic Director for Equipment Services at Eastern Washington. I'm going on the start of my 4th year, but this is my 2nd stint at Eastern. I was here previously for almost an 11-year stint. In between those 2 stints, I was the first ever equipment manager at Gonzaga University down the road in Spokane. So I built that operation from the ground up for 2 years, and then had the opportunity to come back here and get some more administrative experience and kind of get prepared for that next step in my career. So that's why I'm back and definitely doing all that. I'm also the sport administrator for our track and field cross country programs, and involved in business operations and a whole lot of things. So happy to be here and share what I know. And I'll just provide my disclaimer while I get a chance. It's my way is one way, my thoughts and ideas are one way. They're definitely not the way. So just please, there's many ways to do this job. And this is just how I've had success doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of leads right into like I said, the purpose of this panel. I also forgot to say I'm at Trinity University. It's a small D3 in Texas. So obviously my way is much different than some of your guys' way, but it gives us insight and intel, and then also just how to prepare for the unexpected. So yeah, the whole point of this panel is like obviously seeing at different levels, seeing it on the vendor side, kind of understanding how we each do things, and then going from there. Just being perspective, but also again tricks and trades of everything, about everything. We also obviously, like Katie said, we were expecting Ashley Nowak from University of Mexico, but unfortunately she's dealing with a much more real world stuff. So we understand that she obviously couldn't be here as well. So with that being said, like I said, Josh is going to help us moderate. We each kind of have various questions for each of us to kind of tackle. So I'll let him kind of lead that.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate everyone. Looking forward to this. This is a question I always have when I used to meet with everybody. Start out with kind of more of an introductory type of question here, but would like to kind of everyone take a moment, explain kind of their process, just kind of a real basics look at their process. I know ordering isn't basic by any means, but get into the basics of your process, talk about your ordering windows, because I know from the D3 all the way to D1 and working with different vendors and third-party vendors, we all have kind of different windows that we have. Talk about that and how you kind of manage that and schedule that out. So if Quinn, if you could start, and then we'll kind of just work through the rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I had mentioned, I'm at Division III level. So obviously, when it comes to my needs, we have an agreement with BSN Sports, as well as we have a Nike agreement through BSN Sports. So all of my ordering predominantly is done through BSN and their vendors. So I've got a great local vendor in town who obviously takes care of me. We've got a good relationship. He actually was a former coach, used to coach actually our head football coach. So it's kind of a long, good relationship there, but they're kind of my main resource for everything. And as you know, they have everything from, top down, from field equipment to uniforms to, obviously being the largest retailer, or vendor of Nike and stuff like that. So we pull a lot from that side, and their warehouses are located in Dallas and Indy. So easy for us to kind of get the things we need, as well as the custom uniforms. So that's how we go through it. The way we're ordering is obviously very similar, where we're looking at ordering windows well out for uniforms. We're starting to talk about football for next year, because obviously we need to be ordering that now to continue. But, for like hard goods and other stuff, it obviously will depend on availability. And we're trying to look at about, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks out to try to start planning, if not sooner. And really it's sitting down with my coaching staffs, kind of seeing what they need. Each sport's obviously respectively different, and they have tighter budgets being at the Division III level. So it's seeing what they need, because they have to control everything from travel and hotels to all the way to equipment and stuff they need to actually practice and play games. So it's kind of finding that balance, talking with them, and then reaching out to our BSN reps and having open discussions, meetings to kind of plan out that process.
Great. Thanks, Quinn. Steve, you want to chime in and kind of talk about how you used to run things, and maybe even chime on the vendor side of things, since you're part of those ordering windows on a different side?
Yeah, sure. Yep. So I had, I guess you could say, the pleasure of working with 3 suppliers through my career. We started out with Adidas, moved to Reebok, and then, as currently with the NFL, we're at Nike. But something similar with all 3 manufacturers was ordering windows. And it's what you guys are going through right now. That 10-1 time frame, as far as getting your initial orders and things like that, that's was standard for us as well, the NFL level. Maybe the one addition we had was we got to see the boards. I call them boards, but the line art and everything like that in like March. And we'd be able to take those line arts in March, go sit down with our head coach, go sit down with our administrators, our ownership groups, and look at colorways that we wanted, logos that we wanted. We had specific logos we wanted to be on the field versus practice, special colors that the coach wanted on the sidelines and stuff. So we used that time between March and April to get the line art correct, get that back to Nike and Adidas and Reebok. Then they would get back to us with our ordering time and our window. The 10-1 one is the big one. That's where you're hitting your July 1 delivery dates, your footwear and everything. Then we also had a second window for our specialty games. So whether that was BCA, we had our military appreciation stuff. That was usually a November 1 timeframe on the ordering. Then we hit the uniform changes. So if you want to do a uniform change or anything like that, that was an 18-month window. So you had 18 months, we had to have something locked in 18 months prior. A lot of that had to deal with retail. Retail had to push out the old uniform to get ready for the new uniform, so they didn't have a lot of inventory left over and things. So there's a lot of moving parts to some of our ordering process, some of our uniform decisions and things like that. We never knew what our roster was going to be the next year. College level, you guys kind of have an idea of freshmen coming in, you kind of work on your orders, things like that. We didn't have that luxury. I knew whose contracts were up. I could sit down maybe with the GM and head coach to say, hey, who do you think is coming back? To kind of be able to figure out my ordering processes. But you'd have your roster, you knew your size run, and we'd have to kind of pad that a little bit to make up for those people that were going to be added next year that we had no idea about. Our uniforms, we ended up having to do a lot of blanks. On our uniforms, you have to decorate them locally and things. So we kind of got around that part with it. Now kind of switching gears to what I'm doing on the vendor side now. We're going through the same process that I just kind of described from our end. This summer, we looked at cold weather gear, because cold weather's coming up soon. It's one of our big things. So we had to sit down and go through the same things. I looked at, from vendor standpoint, what fabrics do we need? What colors are we going to need? And what product are we going to need to have stocked, ready to go? Because you might find out on Monday, hey, the weather changed, and we need something quick. So I had to kind of problem solve that. So as I come through my visits, I'm sitting down talking with equipment managers. I'm asking them, hey, what did your supplier not provide for you this year? What colors didn't they provide for you this year? What items was missing from the buy this year? So that we could be prepared as our company. We're a small company, so we could be ready to help fulfill those needs for you. So we do the same type of things on our end. We'll be sitting down in the fall looking for spring. So after buys are through, I'm coming through doing my visits. We see folks at AFCA and things like that. I'm going to be asking you those questions about what colors weren't offered, what product wasn't offered, so that we could help fulfill your needs. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to meet the needs of your university, your coaches, and your athletes. And if your supplier is not supplying it for you, you got to go figure that out. And you got to remember that's your basic responsibility is, again, to that university, to your coaches, making sure they're getting it done. So you kind of have to work that window, work with your relationships with your vendors, and got to get around some of that. But yeah, on the vendor side, we do have to plan out everything, and we've got a production plan and everything. So I don't know if Josh, if you want to go through kind of production plan, and you kind of want to leave that to the end, or.
Hold on, Josh, you're not coming through.
Sorry, we'll try that again. Augie, would you mind sharing a little bit about your process with Adidas and kind of the differences you see between football and maybe some of your other sports that you're working with?
Yeah, I think they've both hit it pretty good. We're an all Adidas school here at Eastern, and I also have oversight of that agreement. Adidas, definitely, I think the nice thing about us and our partnership with Adidas is we have pretty much the full gamut of offering that they offer their tier 1 schools. The only difference I would say for us sometimes is the window to order that stuff is a lot shorter. I mean, it could be days, it could be a week. Seriously, I've had like 36-hour notice on some things if we want access to it. And rather than get frustrated, be glad that they're at least giving you the opportunity to have access to some of that stuff. So just kind of roll with it. The one thing I've done is, the ordering windows in the cycle. If you've done this more than probably a year or two, start putting that stuff on your calendar. So you to remember, oh yeah, this window's coming up, or it came up last year. So be kind of ready to either A, ask that question if you don't have any information coming your way, or B, start planning for that ahead of time. Give yourself some time to kind of get a lead on, get a jump on that, because we're all busy doing many things. So the more you can kind of get it, as part of my system, it just becomes my routine. My calendar is a big thing. My email is a big thing. coaches love to text us, and I've really trained my coaches to email me. You text me and I might forget, and I'm just being honest. I'm being transparent with my coaches. Hey, I know you text me, but can you email me that as well? Because that's how I remember what to do for you, or that's how I don't forget. But email and calendar is big for me. I know when the windows are or when they were about. So Adidas does a lot of the big push again is in November and December for July 1 delivery. And what I'm noticing is a lot more of our sports, winter sports, spring sports want July 1 delivery. So including them in that and kind of planning for that extra inventory to be coming in at that time, is something you got to deal with. But they also offer, quarterly offerings for retail product. And so again, adding that into the mix and reminding your coaches when you're planning, hey, remember last year we were offered this retail parka, this retail training thing. Do you want that? You may want to save some of your budget for that. Don't go heavy into your sideline to your team catalog stuff. Save some of your budget for those things that are offered down the road. Maybe they aren't, maybe they are, but give yourself some leeway so that you can have access to that, and you're not shooting yourself in the foot down the road and saying, oh man, I should have ordered that, but we already ordered this.
Thanks, Augie. That leads into another great question. Before I jump into this next kind of round, though, if anybody has any questions they want me to ask, hopefully have some time at the end, just hit me up in the chat and I'll try to come through those at the end. But before we jump in this next question, Augie kind of alluded to it, is kind of having the conversations with coaches and that. So the three of you could take some time, kind of tell me how you manage that personnel side of things, working with coaches or ADs and kind of figuring out what their needs are and explaining the windows that you're under. And I think the other thing too is, how are you guys having conversations when things aren't being delivered on time too? That's part of this process, right? Is that we're not always perfect, and our vendors are not always perfect either. So you guys, we'll start out with Quinn again and kind of work through it. You guys can explain that. It'd be huge for the group here.
Yeah, I kind of echo what Augie said. It's kind of, you got to be kind of honest and straightforward with the coaches. It's kind of the best policy, but also I made a real habit to have good relationships with all of our coaches and stuff, because I want them to feel like they can come to me with anything that they need, because we're just here to help. We're here to make sure that makes their job easier, makes them just be able to focus on practices, games, preparing for those kind of things. So as much as pressure I can take off them on that side, I'm happy to help. Like if they need me to do digging for, say it's a new, pop screen for hitting into for baseball, softball, if it's, new kicking net, like I can look into those things. I can do the research. I can talk to vendors, so don't hesitate to reach out. So I think it's just a matter of that. But like, Augie said, I'm big on, send me an email, because the way I kind of keep track of things, if I know I have to take care of something, I'll leave it. I'll maybe read it, but I'll leave it unread, because that's how I know. I use my calendar religiously as far as, hey, if I know I need to take care of something, hit a window, stuff like that, I'll put it in my calendar. That way I can constantly remind myself of what I have to do. But yeah, I think the biggest thing comes down to having those good relationships. And then when there are issues like Josh said, like if vendors are behind or things, and coaches are asking why we don't have this, why we on that, where do we sit with things? It's just, you just sit there and you be honest with them, and you try to reason with them, make them understand what the process is, how we're doing things. And if there is, major glaring issues, maybe we, it's, again, everything's a learning process. So it's going, okay, we saw this year. How do we combat that for the following years to maybe get ahead of this system? Like Augie said, like, oh, you really wanted this parka last year, you wanted something else. How do we jump these things? How do we proactively kind of stay ahead of things, and then constantly be having those dialogues throughout? So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to just having good relationships with those coaches, with the people who make decisions, and then working with them on budgets, other things, whatever they kind of need guidance with and help with.
Do you have them with your coaches? Do you have them fill out like any request forms, or do you have any worksheets that you have them fill out, or is there any communication like that?
Usually what will happen is some coaches, are every coach is different. And the fun part about what I do is I have like 12 different coaches that I work with, where some of you I know are strictly football or strictly basketball, baseball, whatever your workload is. So the interesting thing for me is I'm dealing with 12 different personalities, 12 different styles. Like for instance, I'll say our football coach, he is on top of everything. When we come down to ordering window, he's sending me a big spreadsheet of everything, and he's got broken down by players, coaches, VIPs, field equipment, extra stuff, just like a full breakdown. And so what I usually say when I'm going to meet with my coaches, I'll tell them like, hey, sit down. We can provide them with catalogs. I'm like, look at things that you would be interested in. And then say, if we have to make an adjustment, we can go from there, but have it all listed out. Cause that's the best way when I go to talk to my vendors, if it's all listed, especially in like Excel files and Google Sheets, stuff that's easily shareable. That's what I usually defer to and tell them like, hey, put in a Google Sheet. Even if you need help with it, I'll sit down with you and I can kind of phrase it. I can make sure that, serial numbers and then quantities match up, stuff like that. And I'll always double check, triple check all their quantities to make sure we're going and then adding extras on the back end as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Steve, I know obviously it's a little bit different in the NFL level, but can you go through a little bit of your interactions maybe with your staffs there and making decisions on what to order?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Now we have obviously NFL, prime time, all that stuff. You have the big name coaches, all that things. So you're going to have some different personalities. I'd say the biggest difference between the college and the pro level, it's the personalities and things like that. We had some coaches that I'd sit down and meet with them, show them those boards that we talked about there in April, sit down, show them, and they would be like, Steve, I don't care. Go with what you feel, go with what you want to do. And sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad. But, you went and you did that. And then sometimes I had coaches that they were into every little detail. Okay, when we play in this stadium, I want this color shirts. I want my coaches in this one, my staff in this one. I want players wearing this. So, you always had different levels of engagement, different levels of personalities and things like that. Assistant coaches would be the same things. They would want this and that. And all the different stuff, then the training staff would be like, hey, I want my trainers all in this color. I want to be opposite so we can be found on the sidelines very easily. Then I did that with my staff too. We tried to pick out a color that was unique so that I could find my staff on the sidelines very easily. So a lot of different things you'd have to sit down and talk to, but like Quinn said, a lot of it is that relationships and getting to know the other people. And a lot of it is being able to anticipate what they need, learn their tendencies. Every one of us has a tendency. So especially those coaches that are going to be last minute, are going to be maybe a challenge to work with or something like that. Learn their tendencies so you can be ahead of the game with them, so that you can give them those gentle reminders of, hey, coach, don't forget now this is coming due. I got to get this order in, coach. It's going to take 3 weeks to deliver. Reach out to your vendors too. And because you're going to have those last minute coaches, reach out to your vendor. What's my availability? Okay, we can't get that done. Where's my other solution? Who can I go to get this done? Because I know coach is going to want this. And have a plan so that when you go to that last minute coach, hey coach, we talked about this. We're late on the delivery. It doesn't look like it's going to come through, but I got this for you. So you got a solution for them so you can get an answer done quickly. So now you can get back to the vendor, give the vendor their time to be able to get the product flipped and back over to you. So it's about those relationships, try to find their tendencies, try to stay ahead of the game. And that's, I think, at all levels, whether it's pro down to even the high school youth level.
Thanks. Quick question for you, kind of follow up to that, and this one might be good for Augie as well. Sizes, that's the big thing, is keeping track of who's wearing what and sizes, and new coach or new staff, or you hire a free agent, all that kind of stuff happens. How are you guys getting what sizes everybody needs? I know everyone has their own process, whether it's paper or old school grid line notebooks, or or using fancy Excel spreadsheet computer system. Yeah. How are you guys tracking all those sizes?
I'm old enough. We used to do it in pen and paper. That's when I started. We were pen and paper. Then we started using Excel sheets. I've still got folders in my house here that I could pull up the 1998 San Francisco 49ers roster from a spreadsheet. So we've evolved to where when we finished, we use SportsSoft. We thought that was the best system for us to use. But what it came down to a lot of with the roster changes, I mean, it was quick. Guy played on Sunday, he's gone on Monday, new guy's in Monday afternoon. So roster changes happened real fast. We kind of had I always called it unwritten rule of the NFL guys. We were a very, close-knit group. We would pick up the phone and call or email saying, hey, we're signing this guy. What size information do you have? A lot of you guys in college, you get that from us after the draft, trying to help out, trying to get that information because coach wants that guy on the field and the window of opportunity is that big to catch a player because the assistant coach wants to get him up to speed on the playbook and all that because it's got to happen quick and fast. So there's a lot of interaction amongst the equipment staffs themselves, getting that information on player sizing, things like that. And then hopefully you've built into your ordering system that you've accounted for making sure you get those big sizes because the vendor is not going to have a lot of 4X and 3X, a lot of smalls left in inventory. So when you got that guy coming in a 5X, you better have a resource built in, and that's, again, relationships with your vendors on building that out. As far as the jerseys go, our jerseys were made in Wilson, Tennessee factory. We're on the West Coast in San Francisco. We learned really quickly that when a factory shuts down at 4:00, it's tough to get a jersey made on Thursday afternoon. So we took it upon ourselves to learn how to sew. And we've got sewing machines that we decorate our jerseys right on the bat. We've had hand sew. I've sat in a hotel room night before a game, hand sewing a jersey nameplate together and put it on a jersey. So we just had to be really resourceful on a lot of things.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Augie, I know you hinted towards working with your staff already, but can you get into the details a little bit and explain, especially, for a lot of us, is the difference between meeting with the football staff, maybe your cross-country staff would be huge for us to learn about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with kind of what Steve said, and is know your coaches, and what Quinn said, know their tendencies. I'm the same way. I think, use those coaches who are organized and who are planners to your advantage because they don't eat up your time. So get them in, get them out, get them the information. They'll do the work for you so you can focus on the coaches that need the work. And we just hired a new track staff. I was fortunate enough to lead that search, and I've got a new director of track and field, but I can speak to our previous staff, and they were very disorganized. Very frustrating at times to work with. So I would just, I think, again, like Steve said, have an alternative. I had kind of an order prepared, and if I didn't get it something by the deadline, I was going to throw it in. We had a change in soccer 2 years ago, and we didn't have a soccer staff to place the order. So I just threw the order in, and it ended up working out. Those are the kind of things you just got to kind of, take the lead. You're in charge of this area. Don't be afraid to, if that's the worst thing you did was you placed an order and we got to return it, but you were proactive, I think that's better than doing nothing and saying, well, I didn't have any information, coach, or your administrator, your supervisor. Just do it. Just get it done. Have something ready to go. But don't get frustrated with those coaches that are last minute. Again, use the ones that are on it to your advantage because it frees up your time to deal with the ones who aren't. The one thing I do is I just look at last year's order. Sizes are going to change a little bit, but especially in football, you're pretty much recruiting the same kind of guys, the same kind of bodies. Look at your order from last year. Look at that size run and use that to kind of start with, especially when you have those quick deadlines. If I'm throwing something together that's due in 3 days, I'm looking at that previous order, whatever that type of item is, whether it's, footwear run, training short, whatever it is, hoodie. And I'm going to start with that as my baseline and then kind of project, okay, where are we losing? Let's adjust it a little bit. But again, you've already got records. Like Steve says, I've got records. Same thing from years back we can look at, but the tendencies of what athletes want to wear now, how they want to wear it. And whether we agree or disagree with you're a medium or not, they want a medium. So let's make sure we have enough mediums for those guys and gals. That's probably, I guess in a nutshell, kind of how I handle it. Again, I'll offer alternatives. Don't be afraid to say, hey, coach, here's what we can do. And use, even though we all have agreements, use those vendors that are out there like Steve. I've used Steve on some things and he's come through and we're going to continue to use Steve and WSI because they have a place in our plan. They have a place in my plan. So don't be afraid to go outside for non-branded product because again, it's a solution. And if your vendor's having trouble providing it, that's your answer. And you're showing your administration and your coaches that you're being proactive.
a couple really good nuggets in there. I think the biggest one there at the end was having a backup plan and having other vendors. I mean, I know Quinn, you can probably agree with this. I mean, there's places to get footwear and things for third parties when you can't find it and all that kind of stuff. Before I switch off you, Augie, I want to poke you a little bit on this track and field situation. I know that's always a unique sport to kind of outfit and make sure everything's handled. How do you handle it? I'm going to just start with the footwear side of things. There's a lot of different specialty type of shoes. Is it just a coach's thing, or you kind of know what the team's going to look like, or how do you handle that track and field aspect of it?
Well, at our level, our track and field program seems to, change year to year and almost quarter to quarter. But I just try to do my best again with the size runs, have some common sizes that, again, looking at the trends from the year before, maybe 2 years out, and kind of seeing where we're at. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect us to sign a freshman that has a size 12.5 women's shoe. So I don't think I don't have a size 12.5 women's runner that I'm going to give her, but I do have a men's size 11 I can give her. So again, it doesn't have to be a women's size 12.5. The answer could be a men's size 11. So, and just say, hey coach, again, we just learned about her. We're going to make the best we can. At the end of the day, she's got an Adidas trainer that she can train in, and that's half the battle. So that's where you can start. I'm not afraid to use old stock, dead stock. I think that's why I keep it around, and it saved my ass during COVID. When we were debating playing a fall season, we ended up not playing. We played in the spring, but our cleats were late from Adidas, and it didn't matter because we had 200, 300 pairs of cleats on the shelf from the previous 5 or 6 years. And guess what? Everybody got a new pair of shoes, and that's all that mattered to our coach.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I know I talked to a couple folks that are dealing with that right now, and they're glad they kept that old stock for sure. That's a huge help, especially in different colorways. I mean, you get some colorways that are a little harder to come by, maybe a red for you or gold for some and things like that, and it's a lot easier to have on hand, and especially in different sizes. Looking for any questions, just kind of a reminder, if you guys have questions, send them on over. I think the kind of next big piece is, and Steve, I want to have you elaborate and have you go first on this one. Just on the vendor supplier side of things is a good question that we kind of came up with beforehand. Take some time and kind of explain the best practices of what you love to see from your best customers. And then maybe Augie and Quinn, if you could jump in and kind of explain some of the best ways that you've been able to kind of work with different vendors and different people and say, hey, this is a great way this guy did it, or this is a terrible way this guy did it. Kind of explain that relationship and kind of easy ways to communicate and get things done. Go ahead, Steve. We'll start with you.
All right, great. Yeah. The number one first thing is the relationships, is with the vendors, build those relationships with them. You got your suppliers and everything, but build the relationships with everyone outside your supplier network, because they're the ones that are going to help you when you're in a jam. I know I always made it a big deal. Any conference meetings I went to, the AMEAs I went to like that, I stopped by every single booth, because you never know what you're going to learn. You never know when you're going to need that person. And so, you've got a toolbox. So how are you going to build your toolbox out? Are you going to keep just a couple tools in it, or are you going to build a big toolbox? An example of how this benefited me is, again, I stopped by every booth. So our jerseys at the 49ers are made at Wilson. They're made at Wilson since the 1950s. But every year I stopped by Rip-On's booth, and I sat there and I learned what they were doing, what their trends were, what they were doing for other teams. I sat and I learned, and I built a relationship with him every year. And he looked at me and he started laughing. He's like, Steve, why do you keep coming back? You don't buy from us. You buy from Wilson. Why do you keep coming back? And I said, you know what? Because I never know. And sure enough, Nike came in, they blew out everything out of the Wilson factory and put us over to Rip-On. And so now that transition I had to make going from Wilson to Rip-On was a piece of cake, because I knew everyone in the office. We built a relationship already. They know how I worked. I knew how they worked. I knew what they had for their cuts and their jerseys and everything. And it was seamless. And why? Because I stopped at their booth. So when you go to these events, invest time in the vendors, build those relationships with them. It's very important. And then the second thing is kind of understand understand the process of what you're doing on what the vendors go through. Apparel has been a big thing with COVID happening. There's been shortages. It's just killed the supply chain. And so you kind of got to understand what's happening and how your product's built. A lot of the apparel comes out of the same factory, whether you're Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, they're all coming out of the same factory. So those factories build production space. So COVID killed the workers that they had. So the production space just got all out of whack. So you go from getting an order to going an entry. Well, it went to the factory, and now it's stuck there in the factory. So as they've come on board and starting to develop more product, well, they've had to reduce the amount of colors available because that production space has gone down. So I know coaches get frustrated because colors were dropped. You get frustrated because deliveries are missed or product is dropped. And it all comes down to that window of how they're doing the production facilities. So at WSI, we're a very small company. We're all made here in the States. And just kind of give you an example of how, when you give me an order, how it runs through the process. We take the order gets entered in the system. Now we take that apparel, we've markered it in the computer, laid it all out. Now we spread the fabric, and then we got a cutter that cuts the fabric. We take that fabric, send it to the sewers sew it, bring it back to us, we QC it, and then ship it. So we built out already, I've got our production is built out already for the next 3 weeks. So we've got a plan in the production process. Well, you call me, hey, Steve, my coach I need red short sleeve shirts. I need them. It's Monday. I need them by Friday. Okay. Well, now we've got to go into the production system and find out where can we, sneak in here and build it out, because we've got everything laid out already. So we got to kind of sneak into that system. And sometimes that's where that relationship comes in with your vendor. A vendor could say, yeah, it's going to be 3 weeks. It's all we can do. Or because you built that relationship with a vendor, hey, I'll get you in. We'll figure something out. I'll bounce someone else out. I can move stuff around. You're good to me. I'm going to be good to you. Make sure you get you in there and everything. So understanding that process that helps a lot. Then as far as taking that order, step process number 1, right? Getting the order in. What are we kind of looking for? Number 1, know your budget, know what you're looking to spend, go online, do a little research, find out what that retail cost is. You're going to be under retail cost normally. So just kind of know what you're asking for and what they're selling. Don't know you've only got $1,000 to spend, but the bill is going to be $3,000 and you're kind of wasting everyone's time. So know what you're doing, have a plan going in. Then know what Pantone colors you're going to need, whether it's in your logos or the color of the shirt that you want to sublimate or something like that. Know your Pantone colors. Have your logos ready too. Vector file format is usually the preferred format. Have your logos ready. Have your locations ready. If you don't know, if you can't get a vector file or anything like that, go up to your marketing department, work with them. They're going to have, they usually have a style guide. They'll list all the Pantone colors, list all the logos, where the logo placements need to be and everything. And then they can usually provide you with the vector files. And then the last thing is have your size run ready. Know what you need, whether extra small, the 5X, whatever have all that. Get as much of that information as you can in that initial email. You're in a time crunch. We want to get it back to you as quick as possible so we can get things going, get you the product as quick as we can. So the more information you can give the vendor at the start, the better they'll be able to service you. They can tell you, hey, number 1, can we do it? Can't we do it? And then number 2, sure, here's the price. Let's get it done. Let's get this thing going and on its way and everything like that. It's the old adage, help me help you. If you can give me the information, I can help you. But again, I can't stress enough the relationships. Use those relationships, especially in the business office. Let those people be your best friend. Utilize them, help them out. Do whatever you can, because when you're in a jam, you're over budget, you need something real fast, that's the person that'll go to bat for you and help you get that money. So really develop that relationship with them. A lot of people now, things are changing with apparel deals and everything like that. A lot of people are being dropped. The schools are being dropped. It's flipping. You're getting less product and you're paying more out of pocket. So things that are played out of pocket, how can you help build that relationship with the business office? Source some things outside of the deal. You got to pay cash for it. It's a cash deal. Go research who else makes a similar product. Can it be a lower price? And if it can be a lower price, go present that to your business office. You're saving them money. They're going to be happy. Your coach is getting the product that he wants. He's happy. And you might even be able to get a custom type product that the coach that you couldn't get from something else. And he could be super happy and stuff. So again, just build those relationships with everyone all the way across the board, not just your coach, your business office, your vendors. And then one last other tidbit that helped me out with my vendor relationships that I never really even thought about. I always thought, hey, a vendor comes in, he wants to buy you lunch, wants to take you out. Oh, great. Hey, I'm going to take advantage of the vendor spending the money. But I went out, it was me and another equipment manager. We went out with a vendor one time, and the vendor went to pull out his card to pay for it. And he said, nope, I got this. And my colleague paid for it. So I asked him afterwards, and it was just the two of us. I said, hey, just curious, why'd you pick up that bill versus the vendor picking it up? I said, don't you always just let the vendor do it? He goes, no. He goes, I built in my budget to pay for tickets, for parking, and to do just like I just did for meals for my vendors, because I don't always want to be that person that's going to nickel and dime my vendors. I don't want to be a person that's always, trying to, pull more out of my vendors. I want my vendors to understand I'm going to take care of them too, that this is a relationship, and I want to do things for them, because when I need something, I want them to be there for me. And if I'm always pulling from them, chances are sometimes they're going to say, no, I can't do that. So, don't be afraid sometimes to take care of that vendor, to help build that relationship, because, as I'm sure Josh will tell you too, what I've learned from the vendor side now, we go to these conference meetings. When you guys go to meet, we all kind of have our own little thing. We all get together, we have lunch, we have dinner, we have drinks, and we discuss things too. So, don't be on that list of people that come up that kind of go in the negative light. So understand, vendors talk too. So treat your vendors well, and because we're here for you. We're really here for you. So.
Some great nuggets, Steve. I appreciate that. That's really good. I'm sure everyone else. I mean, the biggest, I think, just from my short time with BSN, I think the worst emails to get is someone that, is in a rush. Hey, I need a playoff shirt. Do you have any available? Period. Sends email. It's like, well, what does that mean? Do you need a certain color or the long sleeves, short sleeves? And so a lot of that, the most detail you can provide, especially in those last minute requests, are huge for those of you that are first time getting into that side of things. So got about 15 minutes left, and we do want to go ahead and give some time to Quinn and Augie and kind of that relationship and how you found new vendors, how you guys treat your vendors, how do you keep your vendor relationships rolling? Quinn, if you go ahead and get started.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty. Like I said, much like Steve said, it's about, going to convention, going to talk to everyone, whether you need, you have a working relationship with them or not, because you never know when you're going to need something. I met a vendor a couple of years ago who made belts, and sure enough, my baseball coach came to me and said, hey, we want leather belts this year. And sure enough, I pulled that card out real quick out of my pocket, gave him a call. So it's always like creating those relationships. And that, I think the one thing that obviously what I always try to do to help our vendors out is my main key is, I tell our coaches this all the time, the earlier you want something, the earlier we can put it in, the better. Because even if we have to get it and store it, that's going to be much better than waiting till the last minute, and trying to rush it. Because then it also helps our vendors, because we're not forcing them to rush something out for us because we were lazy or we were last minute. If you want to get something done, then we need to do it quick. And then also, again, that's making sure we're taking care of our vendors as well. But also, it kind of keeps everyone on schedule, keeps everyone on track. And that way they're just going through and, knocking things out in that sense. So that's always what my big thing is. Like, I want to give as much leeway, because then it also builds in for if anything does go wrong as far as production or inventory aspects, and we know we've got lead time to make sure that even if it's delayed, we still get it in the timely fashion that we need it for the actual seasons and stuff like that. So.
Perfect. Real quick before I let Augie, if anybody has any kind of questions for the panel, make sure you get them in so I can get them asked here before we have to nod off in about 15. Thanks, Augie.
Yeah, so I'll kind of add to what both of them said. Everything can't be an emergency. It's something I just told my coaches in our first all staff meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that was related to business office purchases. have a plan, have good relationships with your vendors, and don't use up your cards, your outs from your vendors every single time. Again, it can't be every single time. Your vendors include your decorators. So don't use up all those, I need this tonight with your decorators, space them out. Get them as much information as you can. I think one of the things that's helped us is I try to identify with each team, what is it that you want first, and then build out my decorating schedule based on that. You're not going to need your travel sweats for the first day of fall practice. Some coaches want everything the first day, but say, hey, coach, make them understand, I've got every program to worry about, not just yours. And then, to be fair, we've got to have practice gear for these other teams as well. So I got to push these back. And they may be, pissy for a little bit, but I think they'll understand at the end of it that they still have their travel suit when they need it. They just didn't have it day one, but it's okay. Because of social media, I think the Christmas in August and Christmas, anytime you give something out, is big, and they just want the most in that picture. And that's probably where their motivation comes from. They don't always understand that, Augie's not just taking care of soccer. It's also about football, cross country, and basketball, and volleyball, and tennis, and track, and golf, and everybody needs something. So, hey, let's have a conversation about what you really want first to start with, and then let's build in the rest beyond that. And so I'll get that all figured out, and then I'll get as much down to my decorators as I can, as much as they can house for us, and then say, okay, it's down here, here's a need date, but this need date's fluid. I'm just letting you know. So sometimes, I've had things down there for about 2 months, but I don't need them yet, but we just keep moving them back as other things come in. And again, if there absolutely is something that needs to happen, I know that I've got a few cards in my pocket that I can say, hey, I really need this next week. Can you help me out? And usually it works out. And when it doesn't, you just got to have an honest conversation with your coach and say, hey, this is where we're at. This is what the decorator can do and can't do. And again, coach, you got to understand, they're not just decorating our product, they're decorating everybody's product in this area. So we're not the only customer. Right now, our decorators are 3 weeks out, and I'm transparent with that. Our coaches, hey, everything's 3 weeks out, so you got to start planning, or this is going to, whenever they bring something in now, hey, this is 3 weeks out, coach, just letting you know. I had another thought and I totally spaced on it. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Augie. I appreciate that. Had a great question come in, and really kind of whoever wants to take it, go ahead and take it, or if all you want to chime in. When have you guys, I know a lot of us have student managers or student assistants helping out. At what point in time, or do you even include those student managers in teaching them that process? And or is there certain aspects of the ordering process that you might lean on them to help you gather up things for? So, Steve, if you want to start out, I'll ask you is there any kind of assistance or things like that you've had while you were in the league? And then Quinn and Augie, if you guys could chime in after Steve.
Yeah, we didn't have student managers, so to say. We had the interns that did internship, the summer camp, and then I had a couple guys that stick on around for the full year. And what we tried to do was have a little session where there's a player day off. We had maybe an hour window, and try to do some teaching sessions. We did a fitting session on helmets, we did them on shoulder pads, to try to catch the kids that would want to do some stuff and kind of show them a little bit one-on-one a little what we wanted to do as far as student managers. Showing them, hey, inventory is important because we can't go get it. So it's teaching the kids, player comes and asks for it, don't just go to the shelf and grab it, come check with someone, because in my mind, I know I've only got 6 of those on the shelf and I gotta get through the full year on it and I can't reorder. It's about teaching them that process of, we want to take care of the players, but there is a budget, a window of product and everything like that we can't say yes to everything, but you got to learn what can and can't. And then with my assistants, we start working and developing. I'd put them, they were in charge of certain things, whether it's helmets, shoulder pads, soft goods, hard goods, field equipment, things. And, we'd sit down and we'd go through it. I'd have my budget meetings with our ownership groups and come down and say, hey guys, we got X amount of dollars. What do you want? What can we get? Planning out, have a 5-year plan for the field equipment, the hard goods stuff of getting things planned out, and start training my assistants to, get ready for when they got to sit in the chair, that they're able to make these decisions and plan things out, see where it's going to be at in the budget, being able to tell me why, if we're going to be over budget, why are we over budget? So I can go and explain that to upstairs and get things approved. So yeah, little by little, grab the guys, gals, and whoever wanted to kind of learn a little bit about the process. But if you're a student manager right now, if you're an assistant right now, and you're looking to move up in process, is go to your managers, go ask them the questions and learn. Because if you're not willing to make that effort to want to learn, your supervisor may look and say, okay, he doesn't want to learn. So again, if you want to learn, you want to do it, put the effort out there to understand that you want to do and you want to learn. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that supervisor is going to want to help you out.
That's awesome, Steve. Quinn, do you want to take that one? And if you got any students that you've helped out, or how you kind of manage the process with your other staff?
Yeah. Actually, for just this year, this past spring, I just was given an assistant, and so it's been a learning curve with that. And so what I just do is just kind of full transparency. We have a lot of shared Google Sheets, so that way, he can see the changes I'm making, as well as if he needs any changes. But also, it's kind of like what Steve said. It's like knowing that if we pull something off the shelf, like you can see it right there. And again, it's the same thing, kind of having those conversations. But also when it comes to like ordering and stuff like that, especially considering we're going through BSN and it's a lot more stuff like that, I'll just blatantly CC him on all emails, just so he's constantly in the loop about the conversations, seeing how I'm wording things, and also seeing how I'm structuring something to be sent to them, because obviously my system's going to be much different than he's might have seen in the past, or we'll see moving forward wherever, his career path takes him. So it's kind of getting him understanding that it's the same thing. It's like we all have different systems, we all have different process. So it's going through those various steps, just making sure that we're, in communication constantly and going from there. Same thing here at the D3 level, we do have student workers, but a lot of mine are actually athletes who, just want to help out, want to be around sports, love being with us. So with them, it's like when they're doing the work, it's like we try to be clear in communication, but also at the same time, they let us know, if they're ever going to do anything, to check with us first before kind of issuing anything in that regards.
I think that's a big aspect to it, of just communication. That's what I hear over and over again, just communicating. Whether it's someone aspiring to be a equipment manager or just working with your staff, communicating that is a big piece. One last question I have before we kind of wrap things up. Trey sent this in, I thought it was really good. And I'm going to pick on Augie on this one, because I know you've been dealing with this for years, especially even when you were over at Gonzaga. For guys that have 9 sports and multiple coaches and handling and juggling all those personalities, how are you communicating that they're not the only sport you work with, or how do you handle that relationship when you're going through this process? And if you can provide specifics, that'd be awesome for especially a lot of the young folks, first time dealing with that.
I think, be professional, number one. In any interaction you have with anyone in your department, even when they may be unprofessional and you really want to stoop down to their level, check yourself. Be professional, so that way, if it ever gets back to an administrator, a sports supervisor, and coworkers, the other coach they can never say that you were unprofessional and that's why they treated you that way. Email. Document everything, document your conversations. If it's a tough one, send it in an email to your direct supervisor, to the sports supervisor of that sport. Keep them in the loop. Again, be transparent. Say, hey, I am trying to work with this coach, and this is the information I presented to him, whether it's an ordering deadline or whatever it is, and this is where I'm getting pushback. Can you please help me with whatever the situation is? Again, have conversations with your supervisor, with the sport administrators. Keep them in the loop. Use them to your advantage, because oftentimes they have a different relationship with that head coach and they can get through to the coach. If it's an assistant coach who's your equipment liaison, and again, use the head coach where you can to your advantage, as long as you have documentation and you have the why you're having the issue, they can be the ones to have that conversation with their assistant coach and say, hey, you stop being a knucklehead, work with them and give them the information that they need. I think it's, again, be your own advocate in staff meetings. When anytime you're given the floor, anytime someone says, Augie, do you have anything? I always try to say something, because guess what? That they're going to remember I said something. But again, you be your advocate. Say, hey, this is a very busy time of the year for us. Please communicate with us what your needs are, whatever it is, all staff meetings, support staff meetings, senior staff meetings that I'm in. I mean, always say something, always have something prepared in a staff meeting with teams. If you're in those meetings, it could be something very simple, but just have something to say. That way they don't forget about you and they know that you're working on whatever it is. It could be, hey, we're preparing for the road trip. This is what we're getting ready to do, that kind of stuff. But lean on others in this profession. If you're having trouble at your own school, reach out to one of us, reach out to me, please give me a call, shoot me a text. I'll talk to you and we'll just kind of talk it through and talk you off the ledge, because nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. And we all struggle with things, and we don't know what we all struggle with at times. And so if you just need to talk it out with somebody, reach out to your fellow equipment managers or other coaches that are good coaches for you in this industry.
Thanks, Augie. Before we wrap it up, Quinn, do you have anything to finish up here?
Yeah, obviously I thank you to everyone for taking time out of your day to sit on these panels, especially thank you, Augie and Steve, for agreeing to help us out. It's always nice to hear different perspectives, especially from, different levels, the vendor side, especially. If Josh, if you wouldn't mind sharing the slides real quick, we have our upcoming schedule that we'll share with you, as well as if you still want to be a mentor, mentee, we have that on a slide to email us as part of the committee, and we'll get you all paired up. Perfect. Thank you, Josh. But again, thank you so much. Obviously, always big shout out to Melly for believing in our committee and being a part of this. So great leadership in there with the present position. We're just really excited to continue to keep this going. As you can see, the next one is October 5th with baseball, softball prep. And then as you can see, we kind of have the rolling schedule from there. And then as well, like I said, Katie's done a fantastic job with this mentor program. And there's kind of the criteria and the email as well, if you would like to be a mentor or a mentee moving forward.
And we'll do our best. I know a bunch of you guys were sharing links and Google Sheets and stuff like that. So we'll do a job of collecting everything and try to get it out to the group. The biggest thing you guys could do for this call is share it. And we've got 35 people on here. There's hundreds of members in this organization. There's no reason why we shouldn't have 200 people plus every week to learn a little bit more from each other, and at very least get the chance to fellowship with one another. So appreciate everyone being on here on a Wednesday. I know everyone's busy, and hope you guys have a great week. And again, thank you so much for everything you guys do and all the support. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.